morning, everyone. My name is Timothy Lee Grant, and today we are going to be talking about the concept of bit manipulation. And so this topic, a lot of people who are going through their programming experience, they don't really like bit manipulation. It doesn't fit in really with the core of programming, right? You have your basic for loops, and then after that you get more complex of pointers and structs and classes, and then you move on to data structures and algorithms. Bit manipulation seems a little bit scary, and a lot of times it's not taught very much. So I also think that it's fairly important because when I go in to do a lot of job interviews, I actually got a lot of questions regarding bit manipulation, and a lot of companies were actually trying to figure out if I knew about it. So I think it's a fairly important topic that isn't covered very much. So I wanted to make a video about bit manipulation today. All right, cool. So what is the key concept with bit manipulation? And that is we are trying to isolate a particular place. So a variable is going to have, let's call this var, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's probably going to have a lot more, like 32, right? It would be that way, but they would all be 0. So like 0, 0, 0, 0, right? Depending on the number. But for this one, it's going to be like 0, and then we'll say 1, 0, 1, 1. Okay, this is just our variable, and all the rest are going to be just 0 ahead of it. So this variable can represent anything, right? Like any variable, a string, a char, an int, a float, all of these variables are going to be represented by binary values, right? You can break it down. But question is okay, well, I have this variable called var, and it doesn't matter again what the type is, but how do I actually access, let's say I want to access this place right here. How do I actually get that? I can't just say var and then index it like an array or something like that. I can't really do much operations, right? Well, what you want to do is remember your logical and logical or, and then your shift operators. So these are the three main things. So or, and then your shift operators, and I'll just put these like that. So this one is just that. This one is the ampersand sign, and then these ones are just your actual, I don't think you guys, there. Then these ones are the actual notation. All right, so the or, if you have a 0 and a 1, right? 0 or 1 gives a 1. And so if there's a 1 here or a 1 here, it comes out to be a 1. So it's fairly intuitive, right? That one makes sense. And is only when both of them are set to 1 does it give you a 1. Then the shift operators are, what that is it will take a specific value, so a specific place, and then shift over by 1, or you could do shift over by 2. So how do we actually use this to access this variable? So if I want to find out if this placement here is set to be 0 or 1, what I can do is a statement kind of like this. So I can say if var, then what do I want? I want this, I want to find out if this is a 0 or a 1. So I am going to take this if statement and I want it to evaluate to be 1 if this is a 1 and 0 if it's a 0. So this, the var, and then we do and, so the ampersand sign. Now, I want to take another variable, so I want to create something which is like this. Boom, 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 and then a 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. So this is what I want, okay? Like that. So I'm just going to do a 1 right there, see? It's 1. 1. Okay. But I want to isolate this place, I said. I want to isolate this one. So what do? Well, from looking at this, it's fairly obvious. I'm just going to take this 1, I want to shift it over 2 places. So what I do is I do the shift operator, okay? 2, like that. Okay. So now, what does this do? This one is this shifted. Now the 1, we take this 1 and we shift it 1, 2. So now the 1 is right there. 0, 0. Okay. So now, what did we just do? What's going to be the result of this? We're doing an and. So now, 1 and 0. Because all of the other places, except for the location which we are interested in, is set to 0. So everything else, except this one, is going to be 0. Okay, so now, what we're going to do is, this is going to evaluate to 0. 0, this evaluates to 0, this also evaluates to 0, this evaluates to 0 and 0. So what's going to happen here? This is actually going to be, it's going to be if 0. And the reason is because we took this 1 and we put it to the location or the place which we want to access, that we're curious about, and we said, okay, well this one, I want to figure out if this one is set or not. And then we're able to see, okay, it's not set. What would happen, for example, if we decided that we want, or this var variable actually is a 1. Okay, what would happen? So now, this is going to be the same thing, right? We take this 1, so there's a 1 here, and then we shift it over here, and then over here. So now it's 1, and that's 0. Okay, so now we're doing this AND operator again. So now 1 and 0, 0. 1 and 0, 0. 1 and 1 is now going to be 1. Okay, 1 and 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So now this is going to evaluate to be if 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, which is going to evaluate to true. So what we're doing here with this if statement is we are determining if this placement is set to 0. And then if it is, we can do something or have some operation, right? Then you can go and do whatever you need to do. Okay, but what if we want to set a bit? Okay, so we have our variable var, and let's say we want to, we're interested in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th bit. 5th. Okay, we're interested in the 5th bit. And we say, I want the 5th bit to be set to 1. Alright, well, how are we going to do this? So what we can do is we can take this var variable, var, okay, we have this, and what do you think we want to do? Well, I know we want this to be a 1, okay, and I don't really care, or I want these to remain the exact same, okay? So I can just put a 0, a 0, a 0, and a 0. So now we just OR these two together. So we can do var OR, and now how do we get this? How do we get this one? Well, we use the exact same trick that we just did. We do this 1, and then we shift 1 place, 2 place, 3 place, 4 place. So shifted, shifted, 4. Okay? And now what is this going to do? We're going to do 1 and 0. It's going to be 1. So it remains. It's the same thing. 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1. Okay? So this is how you can go and set a specific location. And if I wanted this to be 0, if I wanted, I don't know, this location to be 0, right? Like, okay, I want the 4th location in this variable var to be 0. How are we going to do that? Well, what operation would cause anything and a 0 to be 0? Well, that's AND, right? Because you need both bits to be set. So we know that we're gonna AND, right? So we're gonna AND it, okay? And now, what number do we need? What number do we need right here on the bit that we want? Okay, we want a 0. Does that make sense? Because we know that this is going to cause this place to be set to 0. Now, we want all of the other ones to remain the same. Now, in an AND operation, how does everything remain the same? If you set it to 1, because if this is a 1, 0 and 1 is going to evaluate to 0, so it stays the same. 1 and 1, so we want 1s everywhere here. So you can kind of remember this, like AND is going to be, if you want everything, or if you want the value to stay the same in an AND operator, you use the 1. If you want everything to remain the same in an OR operator, you use the 0. Okay, so here's the number that we want to AND with. So how do we get this? We do var. Here's our var, okay? And then I said we're gonna do an AND, so AND. Now, how do we get this? All right, well, what we have to do is we have to set the bits. So what we can do is get, if we know the actual number which we need to, or if we know the actual amount of how large the variable is. So in this case, we know that we need, let's see, 1, this is going to be 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 4, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 16, right? So 6, 4 is 20, or 10, and then 2, so 3. So 23, this is 23 right here. So we could just do 23, right? And if that's an int value. So now, bam, we created it. So that's another method. It's a little bit more difficult if you want all of the bits to be set, because you have to think like, okay, well, what number is that going to be? Whereas with the OR operator, if you just want one bit set, it's a lot easier to actually just like put a 1 there and then shift over. So this is like the basics of bit manipulation, and I hope that it gave kind of an idea of what to do. If you guys have any suggestions for me on regarding like actually explaining concepts and teaching, I am very, very, very open, and I want to hear back from you guys, because this is my first attempt at trying to do teaching and tutorials online. So I will take your feedback seriously and try to do a better job as I go on. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it helped, and see you later.